we've gone from 50 people in our team now down to 9 people. That sort of shows what's possible within the space of 3 months. Like it's a world of difference into how we can actually operate at scale.
It's going pretty crazy. And I think we're at this kind of inflection point. That's why I'm like really, really excited and I literally cannot sleep.
What would you say makes an AI native agency?
You can say it anytime. Just change your bio, just change your LinkedIn bio. I think a lot of founders that I speak with, a lot of business owners I speak with don't fully grasp that idea, because the traditional way of thinking about it is I need to hire this person, this person, this person, and they can figure it out.
At that point, can we download our human consciousness and then re-upload it into a new body?
So do you think this is the founder's job?
Fundamentally, clients and the market cares about the results.
I think this is a fundamental kind of a belief and mindset. How obsessed are the founders and how hungry are they to actually implement this stuff?
Something in our business that we always refer to is the Midwit meme, the Midwit trap. Everyone's like, oh, I've just installed my Claude bot on my 5th Mac Mini. You're going to be left in the permanent underclass. I think that's the classic, the trap of getting people to think, I need to be so hyper analytical. I need to have all the equipment. You don't need any of that.
Right, and that's why you need to remove the founders, just like what you guys do, right? Remove the founders from the business so you actually have time to think. Yeah. And I think the next level is actually time to go all in on AI yourself. Yeah. That's what happens when you buy the time back.
Today, we're joined by Fernando and Hosun, co-founders of an AI native agency, Revenue Flow. In 2025, you burned through $500,000, executing on GTM, agencies, freelancers, tech tools, campaigns, etc., etc. You eventually narrowed down and built a content plus outbound marketing channel that worked, scaled it through to 3 million a year, picked at 50 people on the team, correct? With 150 plus clients, you learned how hard it was to scale labor. And today you're in a different shape and different form. You're running a different type of agency. Tell us more about it.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that, Roman. So effectively what we started out was a personal brand agency. So we had X content, LinkedIn content for founders of all sorts. And what we realized was the way we served our clients was the same as how we acquired clients. So that was took a long time to figure that out, but we were going pretty viral on X between the years of about 2023 to 2025. And then all of a sudden the X algo just took a tank. And we basically lost what we call predictable pipeline. So clients coming in and basically we had to figure out a solution. And so that's kind of where we bred the kind of outbound offering for ourselves as well as for clients, because we realized that is actually the solution to the kind of unpredictable inbound pipeline. And so, but even that itself is limited because the trust isn't there like it is with content. But also, even when they come in, it's not as easy to close. It's harder to go to market because people don't know who you are. And so the third stage of that is now what we like to call an inbound-led outbound. So where you have content going on timeline, but you also have this kind of precision targeting to your ICP. So that's very high level what it is. Happy to dive in to any kind of part of that you want.
Yeah, I guess let's start with the AI native agency piece. But obviously there is quite a bit of a noise, hype, and trend around building an AI native agency. YC just announced the fact that they started accepting AI native agencies into their program. Where do you stand on a scale of, hey, we're just writing a bunch of prompts with GPT to, hey, we're fully autonomous, or we're more or less AI native with regards to like agents and everything else?
So when we started with personal branding, 3.5, so ChatGPT 3.5, that was sort of on the market, right? So we still remember those days where you sort of get your little browser and then you type in, create the content. So that was really like kind of V0 of what we thought could be possible. And obviously we tried to be early adopters of that. And then Claude came along. It's like very, very early. I think it was like Claude 3 or like 4, Haiku or something. We started writing content for founders. And we found a formula that scaled very, very well. Now I think we're continuously trying to disrupt like how AI first can we be, but also knowing the limitations of, okay, how much can we actually use this and make sure that we can scale, with the highest quality possible and also fulfill. And so right now we're probably trying to push towards that end of the spectrum where we've gone from 50 people in our team now down to, we've got us four as four co-founders in the business. There's 2 sellers, there's 2 copywriters, and then we have like an operations assistant who sort of ties a lot of things together on the back end. So to go from 50 people to 9 people, that sort of shows what's possible within the space of 3 months. Like it's a world of difference into how we can actually operate at scale. Doesn't mean that we're sort of removed and we're letting agents do everything. I think that's the next challenge over the next 6 to 12 months. That's going to be a very, very interesting problem to solve. How do you have workflows sort of within the business that you can sort of let autonomously run, and then you sort of tinker at the 1% refinements, and then you also set it on a course? Because if you have these agents and they suddenly start operating and you haven't set the right direction, then you can go pretty far in the wrong direction before you actually realize, oh, we've messed up. So I think that's the next thing. We're trying to guide the sort of workflows and skills, and I'd love to like talk about the workflows we have into sort of how we're setting up in the back end.
Maybe just we'll make a step back to the time when you made a decision to transition to an AI native agency. Was it like more like a light bulb switch, or was it gradually for you to realize, oh, okay, there is a new way of doing this, let's explore? Or did you just jump into?
Happy to give the kind of client facing or prospect facing perspective, and then Hosun can give the more operational perspective. So we were kind of fortunate enough to start our agency around the time GPT started, right? And so we were already kind of in that initial phase, and so we were learning a lot. There was nothing built already, so we were always playing around with it, but it wasn't actually useful for a very, very, very long time. And we were able to find a workflow for writing and service delivery itself, but not much else. Like it was very, very limited. I did some proposals for some sales calls, but that's about it. As it kind of developed, again, we still use it, keep up to date, but it wasn't that good. It hasn't been that good, and it's been really overhyped for a long, long time in terms of how practical it is. And we can go into that a little bit later. But we always knew that it was going to be something, it's a macro trend, right? And so even if it doesn't work now, I think adopting the mindset that it will happen. It's just a timing thing. It's not an if thing, it's a timing thing, right? And so we had that mindset for a long time. That's been since GPT 3.5. But the actual use cases has only really been in the last kind of 3 months, when AI agents and swarms really became like insanely powerful, to the point where what's called skills, right? Skills and agents on either Codex or Claude Code. You can now build, let's call it like little employees, robot employees, to actually run a lot of these workflows for you, which has never been done before, because now you can connect to a lot of different tools that you use all in one place. I think it streamlines a lot of these operational bottlenecks. And so from our internal perspective, we've been doing this for probably 6 to 9 months. But from the client's perspective, they just thought that, oh, you're just a lead generation agency, or you're just a content agency that just creates content. But they didn't realize how much work goes on the back end to actually develop all of this. And so from the positioning point of view, from a client side, the reason why we went from lead generation agency or personal brand agency to a kind of AI native GTM partner, which is a lot of buzzwords, by the way, but it works because we want to show that how difficult it actually is, but also how much we integrate it into our business. Because in the past, a lot of people kind of saw AI as like, oh, you're just cheating, it's super easy. Now everyone's like, I need to get on it. And so we're basically repositioning to ride the wave. That's effectively what we're doing on the client side. So
yeah, fundamentally clients in the market cares about the results, right? But the art of how you're going to do it, it doesn't really matter for them. Maybe obviously they're aware of the fact that there is AI that needs to be a part of something, but for the most part, most businesses don't care as much about how you do it, as long as you do it in the right timeline and you essentially make them time, save money, or make money, save time, or a combination of both.
Yeah. I actually have a question on the back of what you said. I think a lot of clients doesn't care how the agency deliver, right? If they deliver results, but other agency founders actually are wondering, and I know it from first source, how basically you continue delivering for clients and continue delivering good results and figuring out like the trends and like what works and basically like how to use AI within the agency.
So the question is, how do you execute and fulfill, but also innovate at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I think, one of the things that you get is a sense of perspective. When you have a team and you've worked with hundreds of clients, you've got to a certain size, you sort of know the way of working which burns you out. It requires you to be sort of, on the floor, just doing the thing all the time, just tinkering. I think the sense of perspective you get once you get to a certain scale is, we can keep doing this, but it's going to only get worse and worse and worse. It's like I was saying, if a business doubles in size, the level of complexity 20x's, because there are just so many different connections and pathways. And so for us, it was very natural to actually strip back, okay, how are we going to scale this in a way that ultimately gets us to be happier, gets us to have more time, gets us to actually think about what are the important things in business, with clients, with the way we want to actually scale. And so for us, it was actually, let's get rid of the clients we can't serve well. The ones that take up 80% of the time, but only yield 20% of the retainers, the sort of relationship benefits, and only focus on what we do well. So only do one or two things. And that then frees you up so much more to actually work on what are those two things, what are those three things that we really want to focus on. So then you can have space to focus on executing, but also how do you innovate this then with the amount of leverage we have with AI? How can we actually go in and try and make this, workflow repeatable? Because anything that you do more than once means it can be, by definition, created into like a skill. And so,
just for the reference, a skill is really like an SOP for a human, but it's for AI essentially. Exactly. Yeah.
So we used to have
for those who don't know what a skill is.
We used to have a Notion playbook database. Literally about 150 different playbooks for our team, which is super helpful. But the problem with that is you make it, and then 5 days later it becomes outdated. And then you have to tell your team, you have to, and so with AI, you can basically do the same thing, but have it basically in like a GitHub repository. And so you just push it there. You say, okay, to fulfill that for this client, it's 9 steps. Step 1, step 2, and then you work with it, and then you tinker, and the feedback loop is so quick now. And so you can have this sort of code base as like the infrastructure, and then you can have teammates sort of, operating it and saying, oh, actually, I do use the skill, but I think step 8's wrong. Let's go in and fix it. So you're still executing, delivering, but now you're innovating at 10x the speed as you could before.
Quick one as well, to add to that. The analogy I like to use is like Neo in the Matrix. So you know that scene where he's like, I know Kung Fu. Basically, what it essentially is you're building these kind of skill sets that you download on stored in GitHub repo, which is basically just like Google Workspace, right? And so you have all of these different downloads you can do, and basically you can just teach these agents to do whatever it is you're looking to do, just like employees, right? And so that's why it's incredibly powerful. But the kind of most recent update is agent swarms. So these agents can now talk to each other without you even have to interact with them. So if you want to build complex workflows, it can now talk to each other with complete memory. And I think Anthropic has just come up with an update which now remembers everything across the entire repo, across everything you've ever done. And you can actually migrate memory as well across the other LLMs. So it's going pretty crazy. And I think we're at this kind of inflection point. That's why I'm like really, really excited. And I literally cannot sleep at night.
At that point, can we download our human consciousness and then re-upload it into a new body?
Maybe soon. Maybe
you could go first, Roman.
Yeah. You could be the guinea pig, test subject.
Thank you. This morning, I opened up my laptop and I was like, I was doing something and I just came across a random video about getting more qualitative data about clients. Which essentially taught how to say, it was essentially there was a guy speaking about a form that you need to send to clients straight up after you onboard them. You send them a form, asking a bunch of questions about why they signed up, what mattered, what didn't matter, what could have been done better, and so on and so forth. And I went to Typeform, looked into a subscription model. It's like, do I want to pay like $140, $50 a month? I mean, maybe. And what I did next was like, I was just curious how much time is going to take me to build the Typeform with Claude. So I went to Claude. I asked how easy it is, how fast and easy it is to build a Typeform, like a questionnaire. And that's it. And then I asked a question, but he didn't tell me whether it's easy, fast, or hard. He just built it. And I was like, I'm referring to him,
Yeah.
right? That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
It's
come sense it soon.
mine is not genderless, and it built it. And I was like,
crazy.
okay. So I spent the next 20 minutes essentially like actually properly putting it into shape. And now it essentially replaced that form.
Unbelievable.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. There's some recent posts we've been looking at, and also we posted recently about these legacy sort of like B2B or like infrastructure companies or tech companies. And if you look at their stock price over the last 10 years, it's been, pretty steady, pretty growing. It's done well. Last 3 to 6 months, it's off a cliff. Yeah. And I think the reason is the market sort of realized like, what are the actual moats for a lot of these companies? It's no longer really the technology because, as you said, you can create some of these simple solutions quite well. The moat is really like, how resistant are people to change? So like big enterprises, they take a long time to catch up, right? So there's going to be a bit of a moat there. It is, if you can even call it a moat. But realistically, it's just like human sort of laziness, human resistance, and B, it's just like switching effects and data.
Yep.
And so all of these like smaller like solutions that are software and used to be kind of paywalled, I think they're going to get democratized.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are just going to be like, I've got a problem. Rather than trying to pay $100 a month to sort of solve it for me, I'm just going to go into Claude. I'm going to go into Codex. I'm going to type on fix this for me. You don't even know how to, you don't even need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
You can just ask it.
Yeah.
And then you can say, oh, this isn't quite right. How about this? And it's just the power you can have. It all, I think Fernando has a saying that you use for prospects. What is it? You're only constrained.
The angle I like to use is what is possible now is only constrained by your imagination.
Yeah.
So if you can conceive it, you can build it. And
it's crazy.
I genuinely believe that with my whole heart. And the reason is because I'm seeing this myself. Obviously, you're dyslexic as well, right? I'm also dyslexic. And I've always struggled with executing at a fast pace, right? That has always been a kind of weakness or area of improvement for me. But what I see as an advantage is my ability to think more creatively and think about things that may not be the kind of traditional way of building. And so now what's happened is I, as a business owner, can think of anything, the most random thing. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just build that? And I could just build it. It's crazy. Honestly, absolutely insane.
Some of the use cases.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Is specifically what you've done for your clients, what you're doing for yourself internally. What saved you time, made you more money, made your clients more money, or a combination of both?
I can start with one that all my clients and prospects love. So we create LinkedIn content. Let's say you, Roman, you don't engage, but you see my profile, right? And obviously there's a list of people who visit profile after each piece of content. We then scrape that entire list all the time, and we can enrich it and also qualify it based on different customer profiles. So let's say revenue size, headcount, all the kind of metrics, as well as more nuanced metrics, like have you just raised funding and all this kind of stuff. So we call that signal. What the next step is it pings a message to Slack. Say, hey, Roman's just visited your profile and he's ICP because of X, Y, and Z. It's enriched with your phone number and your email and a button to call you up straight away. So now we can get our in-house SDR, who's a human still, to just call you up as soon as you visit the profile. How crazy is that? That's one workflow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
love it.
Cool. Yeah.
I think we need it.
We'll speak about it after the podcast. Yeah.
So send us the button.
Send you the button. Send you the skill. Well, you got some cool tips in.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Too many.
So I remember last March 2025, about 12 months ago now, we were in talks with HubSpot to get onto their platform, and they were saying, "Oh, you need to get a 12-month, 24-month contracts. You'll get the benefits. In month 9, month 12." We're like, "No, we're not going to pay 12 months up front for this when we don't even know what the next 6 months will look like." So I managed to haggle it down to 7 months. Lo and behold, we used it for about 3 months, and we realized this is way too complicated. It doesn't work properly, and you have to have someone manually inputting data all the time. The reason I say this is now we've migrated a lot of our sort of information onto Supabase.
Yeah.
And so Supabase is sort of like the database layer. So GitHub's kind of like the code layer. Your team can kind of interact with it. You can pull code, you can push code. Supabase has like kind of live information. So it's sort of like more of the interactive, like how many calls have we got for this client? How many impressions have we got? That's what it interacts with. The beauty of that is you can sort of use that for your clients as well. So we have a client who raised, I think, 10 million from venture capital. We got on a call with him and we asked him, so we've worked with you for a month now. We've got you like X meetings. How many of those meetings were closed by X salesperson? He's got 4 people in his sales team. He was like, I have no idea. We're like, well, I mean, we thought you probably wouldn't know, so we've got the data. And so what's possible is now you can have like a simple CRM, like a lightweight CRM. You can track who the calls get routed to on the client's team, what the conversations are like, what's the conversion rate. And for a lot of our clients, they're sort of, they're great sort of creative minds. They might have like great entrepreneurial backgrounds, but they just don't have the systems. They don't really have the know-how, or they just don't have time for it. And so, whereas before, and he's also paid, I think, $50,000 for Salesforce. $75,000 for Salesforce.
For 12-month contract, I believe.
12 months up front, and he still doesn't know, what's happening on the back end.
Oh wow,
which is insane. And so we were like, wouldn't it be nice then, if as we continue to develop, we can take care of the data, we can take care of the tracking, we can take care of, getting the leads into the pipeline, and eventually we can maybe even close for you. And so what we see now is this whole GTM layer of starting from marketing, because we did content for him as well. How to get people warmed up into, a call, and then from a call, how do you get them to close? That whole thing is just collapsing at a fraction of the cost, because he's paying 4 salespeople whatever the base is in the US, and he's trying to get them to try and get leads, but also close, and then also track and sort of manage that whole process.
Yeah.
And so you've collapsed that, and we're trying to partner and say, look, all you need to do with your salespeople is get them to focus on what they do best, speaking to prospects and closing, and we will handle everything else.
That's incredible.
Wow. Yeah,
that's incredible.
With so much experience that you have, what would you say makes an AI native agency versus just agency that is using some AI tools? When can we say that there is an AI native agency?
You can say it anytime. Just change your bio. Just change your LinkedIn bio.
Everyone can do whatever they want, right?
So I think this is a fundamental kind of a belief and mindset of the people who run a business. It very much stems from the founders. It's like, okay, how obsessed are the founders and how hungry are they to actually implement this stuff? So for example, us 4 founders, we are very, very deep in what we call the AI trenches. And so traditional path is to like say, oh, I want to hire an AI prompt engineer, or I want to hire an AI software development. And basically it's just put AI in front of a role, when all the roles are collapsing right now. So what do we have left? We have judgment, taste, we have understanding of business context, as well as previous experience and everything like that. And so the business owner, the CEO, the CRO, the COO, whoever C-suite, we are best placed to fix those problems and build the systems. And that is something that I think a lot of founders that I speak with, a lot of business owners I speak with, don't fully grasp that idea, because the traditional way of thinking about it is, I need to hire this person, and they can figure it out. But there's principal agent problem, right? Which means that they're not as incentivized to figure it out for you. Plus, they don't have the business context to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many challenges in the way. And then the other side is that it's never been easier to figure it out yourself. Again, you still need the judgment, you still need experience, you still need all of these elements, but you're able to build an MVP now. So for example, we're building a LinkedIn content machine right now that I'm doing not manually. I'm building agents on the back end to try and figure it out, and I'm testing and iterating. Again, it's doable, but it's not easy. It still takes time to build. But when we've built this thing properly, I can then hire someone, a copywriter, whoever it is, to then get them to execute it. Because the execution is still needed. You still need a human in the loop to actually do all these different things. But the idea to execution now has been collapsed completely.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we see it.
Can you roughly visualize your current org charts in the agency, including AI co-pilots and everything else?
It's pretty simple. It's what we used to have. Now it's just the bottom layer is like the infrastructure. But it's much more streamlined. So as Fernando said, what we've realized is that old mantra of hire someone better than you in a certain part of the business to run the business for you. Well, now if you do that, why wouldn't they just do the business with AI rather than work for you. So fundamentally, there's like an incentive misalignment. And so what we've realized is we each need to go very, very deep into a certain part of the business and really understand where are the bottlenecks, where are the problems, what can we do about it? And the first thing is, if there's a repetitive task, or if there's a few hours that goes into a task for a client or for whatever, that is a bottleneck to the business's growth. And how can we solve that with AI first, rather than how can we just load the problem onto someone else, onto a scorecard, and try and get someone to solve it for us? And so rather than thinking, I need someone to delegate to and solve it for us, let's solve the problem, let's build a solution, then let's scale the solution. We may then hire after that. So right now, I'm doing kind of operations, service delivery, and then soon going to actually work on the X content engine. So Fernando is obviously working on the LinkedIn one. That's what I'm owning right now. Fernando's working on sort of the sales and the marketing funnel, the LinkedIn. We're all going super, super deep. The two co-founders are also, Tim's working really like hard on the sort of whole infrastructure level. So the tech, the code, the marketing as well on the outbound side. Ben's working on the sales, sort of how do we, maximize the commercial value of our client base. So there's also 4 verticals, but rather than 4 verticals with 10 people reporting to each channel, it's 4 verticals, maybe 1 or 2 people reporting to each channel, and then about 5, 10, 15, 20 different workflows that we're still very, very early on. Like, we're so early, and there's still so many gaps. But the fundamental thing that Fernando said is it's a mindset shift. It's not about, are you perfect with AI? Are you perfectly fluent? None of us can really code except for maybe Tim, who actually went to university for software engineering. And
he even said he couldn't code.
He dropped out after 1 year. So none of us can. Yeah. We're not fluent technically, but we're all trying, and we're all sort of in the day-to-day. And I think that's what matters, because then you understand the problem, then you can solve it.
Actually, that's a very funny thing that you said. Today I was speaking with my mom, and she was like, how are you guys? What are you doing? And I was like, oh, Roman is writing code, and like he's building some stuff with AI. And she's like, who is the software engineer in your household? And I was like, it's actually me, because I also have computer science degree, but like he's doing it more than me. Yeah. I'm more on client delivery at the moment.
Because I think just like yourself, right? With regards to the mindset, I see the opportunities, and I realize I can ship very quickly. And if it takes me less than half an hour to build something like Typeform, or, and last week I spent maybe 2 days building a newsletter agent. I was incredibly amazed by the output. And I write a lot, and I do value high quality output when it comes to copywriting. And when I was able to put together an AI agent to help me research, draft, publish, and potentially I can connect it with Beehive API and see if we could just upload the drafts there. If you can do all of that without me sitting down and like spending hours and hours and hours writing, it's incredible. And I think the mindset that you guys talk about is very interesting. And what Christine and we observe in the agency space, that there is it's more or less like black and white. We've got agencies who are still trying to understand what it is that they need to do and where to start, because they're overwhelmed by the amount of information that exists in the space. And there are others like yourself who are just moving super fast. If you had to give an advice to somebody like maybe a small to medium-sized agency who want to start transitioning, what would you tell them? Where do they start? Do they start with data? Do they start with a mindset? Do they
start with firing some clients to make time?
What team? Where does an owner, a leadership team start with building an AI native agency?
Happy to start here. So first thing is to understand that if you don't create systems and agents for your business, someone will. So if you expand a timeline to nth year, someone will automate you. Again, you can see this as paralyzing or scary or fear, or you can be like, okay, that lights a fire at my ass, so let's really go all in. And it's not go all in as in like, let's hire a team and kind of grow like this. It's literally the founder, the business owner, whoever's running the business, go all in and actually figure out, okay, how do I connect to the repo? How do I use terminals? How does these interact with each other? And again, it's not hard, because now what we have is abundant information, which has never been seen before, which is going to create insane amount of breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I think we're only just started in terms of like what is actually possible. We're only doing things and automating things that we know now because that's what we're used to. But once we've completed those levels, that's when we can start thinking even bigger, right? So that's a mindset thing. From a tactical perspective, it's very much looking at what your current constraint is, and don't think about it as, oh, let's hire another person. Think about it as, can I find someone who's created a tutorial on this, whether it's standing up a new marketing channel? Can I copy that transcript, chuck it into Claude Code, and see if it can create the same thing? If it can't, then fair enough. But iterate a few times to actually see what's possible. Because then by doing the thing, you learn what is possible. So that workflow example I gave you about the signal to the Slack message to the but cool, that was obviously a workflow that we tried to do manually in the past. But because of our experience and the fact that we're all in on AI, we can now just come up with these random workflows that just build on the infrastructure of our business.
Yeah.
And so it does require a level of understanding of where we are in the world and tech-wise, but also tactically, like just build. Literally just build. Just set up your terminal, set up everything, or even just use CodeWork or whatever is easiest to access.
All right, we have imagine we have the mindset piece. What's next? Is it data? Is it architecture? How do we think about that?
So something in our business that we always refer to is the Midwit meme, the Midwit trap.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, it's because I think it's such a good illustration of, you see on the timeline, everyone's like, oh, I've just installed my Claude bot on my 5th Mac Mini. You're going to be left in the permanent underclass. I think that's the classic of, the trap of getting people to think, I need to be so hyper analytical. I need to have all the equipment. You don't need any of that. What I found was that whenever you start something, there's going to be the fog of uncertainty, right? You don't know anything. You don't know what you don't know. You're scared. You don't know like how you're even going to progress. And so sometimes the best thing is, okay, what is the rough direction I'm trying to get to? Okay, I've got let's say like 5 paying customers. What am I actually doing with those paying customers? Is there a common pain point that I'm actually selling to them? If there is, great. What are the biggest constraints? Work on the biggest constraint. Just go to your terminal and just type in, I run a 5-person agency, got these clients. This is the biggest problem I have. Help me solve it. Maybe you have a few ideas. Okay, number 1, number 2, number 3. Let's just go in, tackle, spend a week in that fog. And out of the other side, there's so much clarity, but you can't possibly know that until you've actually done it. You can't analyze your way out of it. You can't think, oh, what if I did this? What if you have to spend? I remember when sort of Tim was trying to get all of us onto Cursor. This was sort of like late last year, like Q3 maybe, like start of Q4, Q3 2025. We've been using Claude and GPT for a long time. But then he was like, oh, let's use Cursor. And we were like, why do we need Cursor? And so I remember the first month, I was like, I've never even looked at like a code base before. And I remember thinking, this is like, I'm sitting in 2005 on like an Intel computer. Like it's got like black text on like a, really, really like non-nice looking sort of UI.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, I really don't like this. But I just sat through, I watched a few tutorials. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not helpful. Made loads of mistakes, pushed things, and then, it just breaks things. But then you realize, okay, I've learned this. I can now actually put something on top of it. This is another lesson I've learned. And so you're sort of compounding the learnings, but the only way sort of out is you have to go through it. You can't just analyze and think, hey, like how do I solve this problem? You just have to try and solve it.
Another mindset shift as well. And the reason why I'm so obsessed with mindset shifts, because I was very, very reluctant to use any of this for a long time, because our co-founder Tim, he loves it, right? He's always on the forefront. He's always got these like different X posts that he's sharing with us. And so he's always been the one who's been setting up infrastructure, kind of like a CTO type role. And so I always just thought, okay, let's just let Tim send it. Let's let him do it. And I'll just do the sales. I'll just do this kind of stuff. And as it went on, I started realizing how much was actually possible by myself. And it was a long kind of journey of just completely changing the mindset, but then also playing around with it enough to actually start building on top of it. So the very first kind of workflows I did was just like a proposal. So I have a grain recorder for a client, and then based off the back of the questions that we ask, I then create a proposal. Proposal outlines the pain points, what we're going to do for them, step-by-step roadmap, everything like that. One shot, send over. Close pretty big deals off the back of that. But that was the first instance of what AI could do. for me. And now sales has gotten to a point where now we're creating custom go-to-market strategies, as well as scraping initial leads with enriched contacts and all this type of stuff. And we're doing that fairly quickly, but it looks extremely high value. And so the idea is basically, once you've accepted that you're either going to go all in or you're just going to be outcompeted, someone's going to automate you, then it's like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And it's testing, but starting from the biggest constraint.
What does the next 6 months, maybe, all right, let's stretch it to 12, look like for your agency and maybe also for your clients as a result of working with your agency?
You want to start with the results?
Well, I think the result is you don't want to sell necessarily the process or the tool or even just like the workflow, but it's all about how do you communicate the value of what you're doing, right? Because you can sell, okay, we're going to get you an outcome, but like, what is the overall value? The value is the client will get a brand, right? That gets them respected in their space, but also there's a tangible outcome of that brand. There's people who they'll be able to reach out to, that the doors will open that previously wouldn't have been able to, contact. There'll be people that reach out to them for investments, for client, like, customer acquisition. And so we want to help sort of package that GTM piece and be an actual partner rather than like an outsourced provider. And so one thing that we're trying to position is we want to be an extension of your team. We don't want to just be a, click the button, you'll get 5 meetings. That's because, as we said about the software solutions on the market, that's going to get easier and easier to do. So you need to be, more strategic about how you position. And so with our clients, we want to be a partner. We want to understand their ICP, their market. We want to be working with their sales team, not necessarily just trying to automate them, but actually helping them to be as high leverage as possible. And that's, I think, a direct stem out of how we operate internally, which is how can we try and be as high leverage as possible. And with AI, it's, the possibilities are so big. So I think that's in terms of the outcomes.
So just to add on to that, there's a whole saying in business where if you want to scale, do one thing, focus on it, don't get shiny object syndrome. And we've experienced that, right? So we scaled initially using X file threads, and we went so hard and it got a few billion views over a year. Went from 100K to 300K a month in like 3 or 4 months, right? And so we saw what was possible when you just focus on one thing you sell, one thing you go to market. Obviously it's fragile, right? Because there's always going to be a point where it may fall. You're at risk of that. And so again, that's when the outbound came. And through that kind of last 3-year period of us testing a bunch of stuff, like burning through nearly 500,000 in go-to-market strategies, as well as team and things like that, we've done a lot, right? So we've done X viral threads, we've done LinkedIn content, we've done LinkedIn outreach, cold outbound, we've tried SEO, we've done a bunch of these random things. Even started like LinkedIn pods of commenting and getting founders through that. There's so many niche strategies that we tried. And that required a lot of testing, a lot of time spent. And it was a lot of struggle because we made so many mistakes along that path. And actually a lot of them we just threw out the window, or whichever ones didn't work, and we just went all in because we only had so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
Now what's possible is, like in the post, we can do every single play that we've ever done and learn with all the experience we've gained from making all of those mistakes and do it all nearly at the same time. Right, nearly at the same time. So, for example, LinkedIn content, X content, SEO. So, for example, Tim, he saw a Greg Eisenberg tutorial on this like SEO optimization thing. He then copies the transcript into his codex and just one-shots 1,000 blog posts on our website. And so over time, obviously, you can understand that maybe we'll rank for whatever it is we're trying to rank for. But that is one example of the expertise that we've built and learning from what we have to then build out forward. Right? That's why you can't just hire some person. Like growth marketing is actually extremely difficult to do if you haven't gone through all of that. And so going forward, what it looks like for clients is very much, okay, we've done all these different things. We have 3 core focuses, which is LinkedIn content, cold email, as well as LinkedIn outreach. One in and of itself can work, but given how crazy AI is getting now, and everyone's able to send cold email, AI generated cold email, as well as AI generated LinkedIn outreach and all these automation tools and LinkedIn content AI generated. What we see now is the combination of all of them, multi-touch, multi-channel at the same time, so you can hit them at every point in the kind of journey. So for example, let's say I was to knock on your door. You may or may not open that door, right, to answer my message or whatever it is. But let's say I now send a carrier pigeon to your house. you may or may not see that or be attentive to that, right? But let's say I create, like fireworks, and there's like a billboard outside your house. Okay, hopefully that gets your attention. But these are just different ways of doing it, and maybe I do it multiple times or whatever it is. And so we can be a lot more creative. But even though it sounds quite overwhelming to someone who's trying to implement with stuff, the way we position ourselves now is very much we are the human layer to all of this change. So think of us as like your LLM, right? So let's say you want to build Typeform, and instead of you having to figure it out, if you don't have time or if you don't have know-how, whatever it is, then you say, hey, Fernando, I'd love to build this. Is it possible? And then I go, for you, my friend, anything is possible. But no, genuinely, we can then figure out, okay, is it actually possible? Do you want a custom dashboard or what? And then we can be strategic partners to determine whether it is even necessary
to do that.
Because some people are like, oh, I want to see this and I want to see this, I want to do this. But it may not be needed right now. So for example, one of our clients, we were trying to work with him to potentially build out a newsletter for him. And just because he had a lot of kind of revenue leakage in the middle. And so what he realized was, or what we realized.
I can show him how to do it.
Yeah. just show it to him. But the idea was that we worked with him to figure out, okay, what is the pain point right now? What is the thing that would make the most difference? And what is the lowest hanging fruit? So then we're just like, okay, newsletter isn't what you need right now. It's very much a fractional SDR to then dial up all of those numbers of warm leads that have fallen off because they didn't show, because they ghosted, because they said no, timing, whatever it is. And now we're able to book meetings back into their calendar because we are flexible based on what they need. And so the long-term solution and what we're trying to do is actually be very malleable depending on the client and actually be that kind of partner that leverages any tool possible, because we're changing tool stacks all the time, right? And we're creating our own tools. And so there's no kind of recommendation because all of them are out there. It's very much just like, how do you orchestrate it to actually get the result, which is the challenging part. That's where the strategic element comes in.
What are the top mistakes you see others make when it comes to AI implementation, whether it's go-to-market or maybe even back-end?
I think a mistake we made personally, so we've lived that experience, is try to delegate away innovation. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like, if you're expecting someone to come into your team and try and automate their own job away, but also the founder's job away, then that's a misheld belief, because they're not going to do that. Their incentives aren't aligned to do that. And so what you need to do is try and understand, how can we innovate and disrupt ourselves and almost get ourselves out of our current role.
So do you think this is the founder's job?
I think it is the founder's job to understand all of the problems that face your business and trying to come up with the solutions, with the ideas. Maybe it's not about getting to 100% finished product as the founder. I think that's when you can sort of outsource and maybe bring in expertise, bring in advisory, bring in consulting. I think part of it is you need to understand the problem. You need to try and have a bit of a solution or an idea, try and spend time. And then someone who's done it a million times, you can be like, okay, this is what we're facing. Here's how you can help us. But if you're asking someone, they don't even know sort of what your business does, and you're saying, hey, I've got a big problem, can you just help fix it? They're going to try and fix it in their way.
Yeah.
But you need to have an idea, like, what is the direction you need to go to? What are the issues that we've actually faced? And then sort of bring that expertise in. That's what I believe.
Prioritization.
Prioritization, yeah.
The meta skill of running a business.
Yeah.
Quick fire questions. What's the most overhyped AI use case you keep hearing founders talk about on social media?
I think that you can one-shot marketing, which just means like, AI UGC, you can now create this and just press a button and it works. I mean, if it did work like that, everyone would be printing money, right? But in reality, there's a lot of iteration. Even this LinkedIn content flow, like, we've been able to book inbound meetings and I'm able to do it and scale it. It still requires a lot of iteration to figure out what works, as well as experience to actually even know what works. So you can put an average post that you create with Claude, but is that going to get engagement? Is that going to get the traction you need, attract the right people? Again, that's very, very kind of...
It's another conversation. Yeah. What part of running an agency gets easier after 1 million a year?
It gives you resources and sort of the ability to make bets, almost like VC money, right? Like, if you've got a bit of capital, you can try out the different tools, you can make the hires, you can sort of invest in coaches and invest in sort of advisory, which you can't really do when you're starting out bootstrapped. So I think that's a big advantage. The the disadvantage is if you just blow that money away, then you're back at square one.
And what parts either get worse or more complex or difficult?
Again, the bigger your business grows, the more complexity there just naturally will be. And so I think the difficulty is, how do you manage that in a sustainable way, in a way that you actually want to, without having to have 10 different reporting lines, 20 different divisions, because it gets so messy. And so you can chase scale for scale's sake, but if you do it, you've sort of built a prison for yourself. And I used to work in an investment bank. And so I sort of know what that feeling is like. You've got no flexibility. You've penned yourself in a hole.
Yeah.
If you create a business and it's exactly like that, then why have you done it? Right. So I think that's the challenge. But with AI, I think you can find the solutions a lot faster.
What's one thing that founders massively overcomplicate in agencies? Think for one, because there are probably many.
Yeah.
Systems. Everyone thinks they need like tools and HubSpot and Zoom Info, all these random tools. So that will solve the problem. And you need all this random complexity. Oh, you need to hire this person. You need to hire this person. Yeah. And then blah, blah, blah. And all you end up realizing is, oh, wait, you can just do it on a Google Sheets. That was literally our realization. And we had this whole team. And again, that we haven't actually accounted that as part of the money that we've invested, let's call it. But we went through that entire thing of like, oh, thinking we need this. Okay, let's actually build up structure, because that's what everyone tells you to do.
Yeah. But
in actual fact, you can just do it with a tracker. Yeah. It's just like, it should be that simple. And that's where we always call out that Midwit trap, because we always fall into Midwit. It's nearly impossible to avoid.
Yeah. Sometimes when you see multiple eight-figure agencies, just businesses running on spreadsheets, you'll realize, well, it's not that much about supply. It's about creating demand, and that's where the focus is supposed to be. What's the most ridiculous client request you've ever said yes to?
Most ridiculous client request would probably be, can you automate my entire sales team away? That's probably, I mean, that's something that we haven't done, right? Like it's part of the next, as you said, the next 6 to 12 months. That's a challenge, is like, how do you go from an enterprise company who has like 500 people in their sales division, all doing 10 different tasks, to maybe having 50 people or 5 people all doing, 1 or 2 different things amazingly well. And the rest of the people, well, there'll be new jobs that come out. There'll be new roles. There'll be new like workflows. And so for us, it'll be very interesting to see how can we sort of elevate that sales and marketing side, and sort of ultimately help the clients get a lot more clarity, but also save money and then actually get the outcome they want, which is ultimately more business for them.
That's definitely an interesting request. Was it the first one from them? Did they came to you and just ask for this straight away?
No, definitely not. So the one I'm talking about right now, they actually came for content immediately. So they did content, and then we started doing outbound, and then we started to see more possibilities. I think you had a conversation the other day about saying, I've got this legacy sales system. Is this something you can help with?
Yeah, he just saw a post. He was like, oh, you have an old way. And I was looking at the tech stack, and I was like, that's what I'm using. And he was like, he saw the new tech stack. I was like, I've got to jump on a call with these guys. But that's an example, right? People are starting to have this shift, and we want to ride that wave as long as possible, because this is actually a very forefront thing now. So that's why we're changing the positioning at this time, and that's why it all kind of works well right now.
Maybe we should do more of this post, the old way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The blue pill, the red pill,
I actually would love that.
Yeah, we should do that too.
Do it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That was great. Yeah. That's what a pleasure
Thank you very much.
you. It was amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's over.
It's fascinating, and I'm generally looking forward to seeing you in 6 months from now. Well, hopefully we'll be back in Dubai.
That's true.
Yes.
We'll turn into robots by then. We'll just upload our brain onto
Neuralink with Claude. With Codex.
I just want to add one more thing. If people think that they don't have time, we actually met these guys on Sunday, I think it was, in a coffee shop. And I was asking you what you're going to work on. And you were like, oh, some very interesting side projects. And I think some of the side projects are probably like things that we spoke about. So I love it.
I think something we've always placed an emphasis on is try to carve out time that isn't just doing. And then just step back a bit and actually think, why am I doing this? Why am I doing
Sometimes
this?
you realize you're climbing the wrong mountain without realizing, right? And so that's why just final thing from me is like a lot of times when founders are just starting out, they do a lot. They think a lot, but they don't do enough.
Yeah.
As you scale, they do a lot, but they don't think enough.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, so yeah, they do a lot, but without thinking enough.
Yeah,
and
because there's so much
because
to do.
there's so much to do. Plus, they've built that habit because they've been rewarded from the actions. But sometimes just knowing which mountain to climb completely changes course.
Yes.
Right. And that's why you can exert all your effort. And when you know that the place you're going to get to is the place you're going to get to, that's when you can go all in. Right. And that's why you need to remove the founders, just like what you guys do. Right. Remove the founders from the business. So you actually have time to think.
Yeah.
And I think the next level is actually time to go all in on AI yourself.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you buy the time back.
As I said, I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing your progress over the next 6 to 12 months because you guys are doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Likewise. Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Amazing.